Okay. All right. So we are back with Larry Russell for part two of our in-depth interview, and again we're covering a lot of his Ace Frehley stories. This is Ace Frehley's No Regrets book, and Larry is mentioned in it. So, Larry, in part one, we covered your stories of being in the studio for Dress to Kill. We covered, finding Anton Fig, being at the rehearsal before they were even signed, and we got up to about the Unmasked album. So we stopped basically at the start of the '80s. You know what? Why don't we start with your Eric Carr story? As we know, his name is Paul Caravello, and he joined Kiss in 1980. And you have a story about that.
Well, it's a murky story.
Okay.
It's one of those, because you have to understand, I wasn't sober then.
Right.
I didn't get sober until '84.
Okay.
But and anyway, so I remember being with Ace, sleeping over. Don't remember what we did. I think we destroyed his Jeep
Why not?
because, well, he lived in Wilton, Connecticut, in
Right.
this really nice place,
Yeah.
really nice house, and he, he was having work done on a swimming pool. They were going to install, I believe, it looked like that. So there was this big like crater,
Right.
and it had rained. And this is another story. This is aside from. I'm just remembering this stuff. And we got into his Jeep, and there was like a crater, and we just kind of drove into the crater with all the water splashing on the windshield, and with each time we did it, he would scream his laugh, his great laugh, and he ruined that Jeep. That Jeep was useless after that.
God, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I
But
know.
now, when Peter
So
Criss left the band, though, did he say anything about that? Like, there goes my buddy, or thank
no,
God
he
we
never.
got rid of him, or anything?
No, nothing like that. No, he
Okay.
kept that to himself. If he felt anyway, I didn't know about it.
Okay. And so they search for uh, a new drummer, and they find Paul, which now means Kiss has three Pauls in the band.
Yeah, that's right. Isn't it funny?
Yeah, it is.
Um, that morning, the morning before we got into the Jeep and ruined it, I remember, like I need to have like coffee in the morning, and he had coffee. I think he had instant coffee, Maxim, Taster's Choice kind of coffee. I don't think he brewed anything for me.
Right.
And then he asked me if I wanted pizza for breakfast, and that was, I guess, an Ace breakfast. So we had that, and he made some pizza for us, and I seem to remember him asking me, think of a name for a drummer.
Okay.
We need a name for our drummer. And, I'm not shy, and I think I came out with that name, Eric. I think I did. It seems to be like, I can't tell you right now. I definitely came up with that name, but it was, in the recesses of my mind, I really
Believe.
this all feels right, when in saying that.
Yeah, and what a great drummer he was. So now you said you got sober with Ace, or you got sober by yourself, I should say,
By myself.
yeah, right, in '84, and Ace was known to imbibe and drink and so on
Oh,
and
yeah.
so forth. Uh, do you have any drinking stories of you and Ace? Any crazy stuff?
I do. I think it was probably, well, I can't give you a date. It was either 81, 82, because those were my worst years,
Okay,
and probably his too. And I think he challenged me to who can drink more.
that
So,
sounds like a game a drinker would have.
right, exactly. And we both were, proud drinkers, so to speak. And so I agreed to take the challenge, and he picked me up by limo,
Hmm.
and we ended up in a place. I don't know if you know JP's. JP's was a spot on the Upper East Side where kind of like, everyone would hang at, but it wasn't JP's. It was near JP's, another bar.
Okay.
And we went into this bar, and it was a nice place. We had some tables, And we sat there, and he asked for triples. Now I don't remember what we were drinking. It could have been vodka, but it was straight up, triples. Head back, down them. And we
There you
had
go.
by that point we had within maybe 30 minutes we had about three triples each,
Right.
and we both ended up under the table. I don't know what we were doing under the table, just goofing around, and the owner proceeded to throw us out.
Good. Good Ace
So,
story.
yeah, well, it's embarrassing, I guess, now to talk about this, but and I don't even know if he remembers it, but he might. Um, and we had a limousine driver who helped us back in the car, um, and we decided to go to another place, and we went to the Underground, I think it was called.
Right.
We were pretty drunk by this point, but as we got into the car, I don't know, there's something a battle ensued between us. We were in the car, and we started fighting. Like really, like the way two brothers would, or two close friends. Just and we started like hitting each other, and he got on top of my head, and he was smothering me, and I somehow just like let out a punch, and I got him in the ribs pretty badly, and and he moved away, and then we were both kind of like acting like goofballs. But then we got to the Underground. The door opens, the limousine driver's there, and do you remember in the movie Arthur
Yes.
when he kind of like he's like dripping out of the car. He's not walking out of the car. He's
Right.
kind of like,
Falls
that's
out.
how I was.
Okay.
That's pretty much how I was. I remember I couldn't get out, and he helped us up, and then at this point, Ace and I, like, our arms around each other, like, staggering, and then we go down the stairs. I don't know how we didn't fall, and went down the stairs, and then it started walking around this club, which was kind of big. Actually, it was a big place, and there were chicks everywhere and booze, and started drinking again, and then after a while they threw us out of there. So we weren't doing too well, actually. So
No.
we get back in the car, and he said, "You want to eat something?" And he was never known to be like a health nut, So we
Right.
ended up at McDonald's on 71st Street, ate something. Then after that, we went to a place called Tracks, which was a really well-known club. It was a place where you could see Mick Jagger there at any night, or Larry Russell. No, just kidding. And Billy Joel. I mean, there were a lot of great things happening in that club, and I played there a lot. But anyway, and we hung out there, and we were at the bar, and Ian Hunter. Do you know who Ian Hunter is,
Yes,
right?
of course. Once bitten, twice shy.
That's right. And right, all those young dudes. And
Yeah.
so,
Great music.
I knew him, and we were sitting at the bar, and then I go over and I talk to Ian, and he's at one side of the bar, and Ace is, about 20 feet away at the bar by himself. And Ian, said, "Hey, Larry, can I buy you a drink?" And I said, "Okay, I'll have another drink." And while I was drinking my drink that Ian bought for me, I turned and looked, and I saw Ace's head go down and fell asleep on the bar. And I realized I won the bet. So it was one, it was one.
Now, what was the bet though? Was it money or was it just
No, no,
pride?
it was just between us, who can drink,
Okay.
who can
So it was a
last.
pride bet.
Exactly.
Okay.
And but I have to tell you, the next day I never felt pain like that in my whole life. That was really bad hangover,
Now
really bad
I can imagine. Now, let me walk you through some of the history that was going on at the time. Uh,
history.
the Elder was the album they were working on. Did Ace ever talk to you about those recording sessions, saying, "Man, we've got this great new album," or "Oh my God, what the hell are we doing? This is terrible," or did he mention anything about "I want to leave the band"? Any kind of talk like that around
You mean
82,
you
83?
mean Ace?
Yeah. Did he comment at all about the Elder or about the recording sessions or wanting to leave the band? When did he first tell you he wanted to leave the band?
That's a good question. He might have said it a few times. I mean, everybody has that kind of moment in a band, when
Mm-hmm.
you feel like you've had enough. But I can't sit and for your fans out there to actually know, or the precise moment when his displeasure started to arise.
Well, let's
I,
put it
you know,
this way more generally then. Was he voicing displeasure with you?
he
And was he
was.
okay?
I think he was. I think he was. I think he was kind of. I think he felt like he was being mistreated. I mean, to
Okay.
some degree.
Okay. And I would imagine that's probably musically, since his contributions seem to have been put to the side, and also financially, because now instead of being one of four with an equal vote, now that Eric Carr is not voting, it's sort of two against one, right?
Two against one. Yeah.
Um, after he leaves the band, he hangs out for a couple of years, and then around I guess 85, 86, he starts up Fraley's Comet. Did he ask you to be a part of Fraley's Comet?
No, it's. I don't know. I think that he. I think that Ace. It's like asking your cousin, "Do you want to be in my band?"
Right.
That generally doesn't happen. I mean, it's like we did have music background between us. We definitely played a lot together. If he wanted someone to play, he loved the Stones, and we would, do covers of that live when we were kids,
Right.
up until we were both like 21 or so. And
Well,
but aside from that, he never did. I mean, he had his own idea of who he wanted, and then I guess he had John Regan on bass, and
yeah.
and
John's
and
a great guy, by the way.
right. And I went to go see them play when I forgot where they played. I think it might have been the Limelight. I'm not sure though. And
Okay.
I was there, and I remember hanging out with his daughter, Monique.
Monique.
Yeah, and that's all I really remember. I didn't like hang. I don't remember hanging out with him after the show or anything. But I was just. I think I went with a friend, and obviously I was on the guest list, and
Yeah.
I did want to tell you about. It really is a short story that happened. Early 80s.
Okay.
There was a birthday party planned
Oh yeah, let's hear about that.
for him.
And after that, if you can, let's talk a little bit about you jamming with Ace. I know we're covering the '80s, but let's hear about those Rolling Stone jams and where they took place.
Well,
But first, let's go
I
with
will.
this birthday party.
I will. Um, well, I don't remember the year. It could have been 1980.
Right.
It was a special birthday party.
For who?
Um,
For Ace? For Gene? For
for,
Paul? For
for,
somebody
for
else?
for Ace.
Okay.
It was at his Wilton house.
Okay.
Um, and I believe Anton was there. Keith Linton was there, who was in that group Siren.
Right.
Um, that was Anton's band. And we were just kind of like waiting, and Jeanette, of course, was there, and I
Ace's
was in,
wife. Right.
yeah, his wife, and I was in the corner, right near the Kiss pinball machine,
I'm
and
glad to know that Ace had a Kiss pinball machine.
yes, he did,
That's funny.
and
Wonder
it
whatever
was
happened to it. But go
yeah,
on.
right, yeah, good question. It's probably
Probably
I
destroyed at
hope
this point.
well, I hope it's not. I hope it's that he kept it, but um, yeah, and Gene was to the left of me. He was right next to me, and a few other people there were all waiting. You know how it is when you wait for somebody and go to say surprise.
Right. It's okay. So it was a surprise birthday party. Okay.
And it was a surprise birthday. Right. I'm sorry I didn't mention that. And we're waiting. And I remember Jeanette coming in and saying, he's coming, he's drove up, let's get in position. And there was just that dead silence. And Gene said a very funny thing because he has such knowledge of horror movies.
Right. Big fan of
There
horror
was
movies.
there was a 50s movie called The Thing
Yes.
from Another World. And he just came out and said, "Doesn't this remind you of the Thing movie?" And he was right because there was one, you know, uh, uh, part of the movie where everyone's waiting for the Thing to come through the door, and they have to kill it, of course, but it's that dead silence of anticipation, and that's what happened. And then Paul came in. I mean, Ace came in, and we went surprise, but it was just I love that Gene moment. That was a great moment because all you heard was his voice, saying that, and everyone laughed, of course, because they all got it. So that's my little story with that.
That's a great one. So let's just let's forgo the '80s for a second. You were jamming with Ace, obviously before he was in Kiss. Now, was this during your high school years? In
This is
'66, '67, or whatever it was, or
no, because '67 I was busy with my band, and
okay.
67, 68, I was busy. No, this had to have been like 1970.
Okay.
Um, there were times when he would call me to play drums because I was a drummer.
Okay.
And he was impressed with the fact that if I didn't even know this song, I would end with him perfectly. He even said that at this time. He said, "Wow, how did you know to do that?" And I just didn't know. I just felt it. But whenever, there was some sort of jam. I mean, right after he got his first Marshall, I remember he got this 50-watt Marshall, which was kind of like a mini tower with a head. And he was really cool. He was really happy about that. And I think he had a Les Paul then. And we did this Bronx. It was like this little, like block party, but in a park. And it was great. And everybody got up and did songs, and he asked me, he said, yeah, it was just understood that I was going to be playing with them. And we did Brown Sugar and we did Honky Tonk Woman. So he would always call on me to do that because he always knew I knew these songs. And yeah, this happened a lot. I mean, he would come to my house and jam. And, that story about Jim McCarty,
Right.
that wasn't really, actually wasn't written accurately in his book. But I was at my house, with my mom, and we were in my bedroom. Jim McCarty from Cactus, right?
Right.
And Mitch Ryder and Detroit Wheels, that guitar player. I was hanging out with him then. It was a 71.
Yeah.
And Ace was there. Ace was in the corner and playing an acoustic guitar. And we're all doing like a blues. And I think that, Ace was blown away by Jim McCarty. And in fact, there was a tape of it because I would tape everything, I still do, of it. And I think Ace had a copy of that. And I think he still has it somewhere of that jam. But I think that he felt a little intimidated by Jim, because Jim was like this outrageous blues guy. And I don't consider, Ace a blues guitar. He's a real,
Rock.
quintessential rock guy, and he's great at it. So, yeah, like that.
You just mentioned Ace's book, No Regrets.
Hmm.
You've read most of it, if not all of it. What are your thoughts of it? Is it an accurate depiction of Ace's life? Is it somewhat fantastical, or is it sort of like, listen, for a guy who was under the influence, it's as good as it's going to get?
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like, I think it's left out a lot of stuff. I mean, I remember when he was writing the book, he was calling me up and asking me if I remembered any stuff, because he said he didn't remember anything. And then I think his mind got a little bit more, like with anything. Like I'm sitting here trying to remember stuff to tell you, but I think his mind got jogged a little bit and he started remembering. I think that he kind of, my only criticism of the book, and obviously I have two criticisms that I felt like, and I told him this, I'm not saying something to the public that I didn't tell him, is that I felt that I was more to him musically than a liaison to Anton Fig.
Right.
That, and someone I went to high school with. I mean, that's how I was mentioned in the book, and it's really ridiculous. I mean, it's just,
Right.
so, and then the other thing is, the book seems like it's aimed at, naming names, it's before I played with this person or before I knew that person. And that to me is like, that's all show business, and then I didn't like that too much. I thought, well, if you're going to write a book about yourself, make it really as real as possible, and not have to mention, so and so and so and so. I think that any Kiss fan would want to know something about, what he ate in the morning or what he didn't do. I'm just saying what his relationship was with his mom or his brother, and I don't think his brother was mentioned enough. Um,
Yeah,
the pictures.
I actually want to ask you about that. Charlie's his brother, and a lot of Kiss fans, first of all, don't even know that Ace has a brother. What's your take on their relationship? Do they talk to each other? Are they friends with each other, or did he sort of cut him out of his life? Because
I don't know if he cut him. That's a strong,
right, but you
it's a
get
little
you
bit
get
strong.
the impression that he doesn't really ever mention him, or not. I don't know why he should actually, but it just seems as though
Hmm.
Charlie's ignored.
Yeah, it seems that way. I think that Charlie and you couldn't find two opposite kinds of guys. I mean,
Right.
really. they're just so different. I mean, even as musicians, I
Right.
mean, just you
Well,
know.
yeah, Charlie's
So
doing what is it called? The bridge band or some kind of folk music, and Ace, of course, rock
actually,
god, right?
yeah, he's a rock. He's a metal guy. Actually, when you think about it now at this point. Um, yeah, I don't really get it. I mean, I don't understand that. I don't really want to comment on that because I know Charlie,
Right.
and I know that I don't really know their relationship all that well.
Well, then
I just
let me move you into another territory here because
yeah.
we're at the 20-minute mark and we're going for 30.
Okay.
1996 rolls around and Kiss does this reunion tour. In fact, I think the negotiations for it started in 95. How was it to be around Ace at that time? Was he exciting? Exciting. Was he excited, or was he more like, ah, it's another paycheck? Or do you remember anything about that time?
Yeah, I do. I basically remember that he was happy.
Okay.
I mean, obviously he's making money. I mean, I could
Yeah.
see,
And a
you
lot
know,
of it.
yeah, he's making a lot of it, and you know, he used to love going take me to go shopping when he was, buying stuff, and he spent a lot of money, on useless things. I think sometimes, he would just go out and buy a whole lot of, instead of, buying one of them, he'd buy about 10 of them.
Right. Well, I think
But
I told you the last time I interviewed Ace, he was on his cell phone buying a mattress while doing the interview with me. So, yeah.
yeah,
Well,
well, I mean,
the Ace
at least,
shopping experience, I'm very well aware of.
right, he likes shopping. So, I remember going to Sam Ash with him
Right.
and
Great
hanging
store.
out. I don't remember what we were, looking at, but I don't really remember. It could have been a guitar, but and maybe it was something electrical.
Right.
But he seemed happy. This was a good time for him, and yeah, that's what I remember. Just the overall demeanor was just really upbeat.
And of course, Ace had gotten into physical shape and he had, for a
You're
time,
right,
become sober. Um, did he
right.
talk to you at all about that process? And were you disappointed when you found out afterwards that he had fallen off the wagon and gone back to the bottle?
As you know, I went, sober in '84,
Right.
so I think that
It's a tough
he was
struggle.
very, huh?
It's a tough struggle to stay
You know
off
what? It wasn't that difficult
for
for
you.
me.
Okay.
I just made a decision to do it, and I did it.
Perfect. Oh, yeah.
I didn't go.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I didn't go to any classes or any meetings or anything like that. I just decided, look, this is bad. I can't. I got to stop doing this, and I did it. Cigarettes was more difficult.
Right.
Um, but drinking and smoking pot or whatever I was doing, that wasn't that difficult because at that point I wanted to. And it comes down to that. He wasn't really, I think he was just aware of me in terms of my sobriety. So he didn't really want to talk about it in front of me too much,
Okay.
because whether he was doing it or not, I don't think he wanted me to bring it up to him and saying, "Hey, you should do this," and give him the brotherly talk. I don't think, even if that's wrong, I still think that he was aware of my sobriety and how I would react to him. But no, it wasn't like that at all. I remember how he would just, talk about how he was on a diet. He used to, whenever he went on a diet, he used to eat lots of sushi because he thought that was, dietetic and good for him. And just about wraps that one up.
Yeah. Now, we're 2014. What has Ace been like in the last like 5 years? Have you been listening to any? I mean, I know he came and recorded a song at your studio, and of course, we
Yeah,
encourage people to check out your studio. But have you? I mean, is there still a friendship like it was before, or is he sort of an acquaintance from the past at this point?
that's a good question. I think it's a mixture
Okay.
of both. I think that um, every time we see each other,
Right.
the feelings come back. I
Right.
mean, I could see he's got that brotherly look. He loves me.
Right.
I mean, I love him. I mean, in 2008, I went up to help him with his studio. That house that burnt down, by the way. I
Right.
was
That's
in.
the one that was in the news recently.
I was in that house, and I was there to help him with his Pro Tools. And I'm here. Imagine us, the two guys, like underneath the desk, handing wires to each other. Passing this over to me. It's really funny.
It's funny.
And we did that for about 6 hours that day. But before that, we talked about our parents dying. His mother died the same year my mother died, and he and I had a really nice heart-to-heart talk about that and what that was like for us. So I remember that was really, talks like that really bring people together, and I felt that way. So when we're together, we're fine, and then when we're not, it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind, and we try to. I try to text him just to keep,
The conversation going, right?
conversation going, yeah, and the dialogue, and he's just as nice on, through these texts, and and we talk to each other. But when he did call me up to record here, it was a great experience. I remember that night because I felt like we were back in his room, in the Bronx, jamming away on Who songs. It was such a nice feeling to relate to him in such a. It was brotherly, but it was professional
Yeah.
because he was listening to me. He was realizing, he was getting me. He was understanding that I know my shit, and I can do what I can do, because he brought up Eddie Kramer. He said, "Oh yeah, that's how Eddie and I used to work," and so that was nice. He kind of made some sort of reflective reference to working with Eddie Kramer when he was working with me. Not that it's the same, but I'm just saying something brought up a memory for him.
It's a nice comparison. Now, I know you can't tell me what cover song he recorded and all that, but just listening to it as a musician, how is it sounding for the fans out there? I mean, is his playing up to par? Does it sound like a great song? I mean, are fans going to be thrilled when this comes out, or
Well, here's what I think. Here's what I think happened. He did these. He did the tracks
right,
I believe in California.
right?
And the drummer he used was really excellent. And I told him, I said, boy, that drummer, his timing was completely consistent from the beginning of the song to the end. He didn't rush, he didn't slow down.
Was that
Um,
Matt Starr?
I don't know, might have been,
Okay,
but he was, I would, he didn't tell me what his name was.
okay,
And we were just sitting here, and I think he's probably going to do all the guitars over. And some of the solos that I was able to, I actually still have those files. I have them here. He left them here. Um, because what he did was he had a hard drive, and he recopied his files over to my hard drive, and I still have them. But the guitar sounds, I'm sure, are sounds that he's not going to keep, because I think that they were done poorly and quickly, just to get the idea down. And I think he's probably going to,
right. A sort of
do it.
scratch track.
Yeah, it's a scratch, but the feel was there. It was definitely good feel. So I don't know how much of that he's going to keep, or whether he's going to re-record it. I don't know if he's going to keep the vocals. He's probably going to redo the vocals and keep the ideas the same. So whatever happened that night when he recorded with me, I think was very helpful for him, because it provided a real map as to how he wanted to approach the vocals, and I think I helped in that regard too.
Well, that's great. Now, obviously, if people want to find you online, they go to musicjacket.com, and I'll
Well,
write the link.
let me give you my number.
Well,
Six four.
that's what I was going to get to. Let's get your phone number. People can text you or call you, and they can reserve studio time or whatever else. So let's hear it.
What's really best is I encourage singer-songwriters with bands. Call me. I can remix your stuff if you're not happy with what you had, either with yourself doing it or with another producer. I could, take Pro Tools of any kind and make them sound polished and sound like a record.
Right.
You can call me at 646-479-4498. You can text me there. And,
Yeah.
I've got really great front end and great microphones and great guitar effects too, great guitar sounds. So if you're a guitar player, if you're a keyboard player, I've got great keyboard sounds too. So I've got it. I've got it all. It's all here. So
So
yeah,
perfect. So let's repeat that number one more time. 646.
646-479-4498. And the
There you go.
company is called Music Jacket Productions, MUZIKJAKIT.com.
There you go. Well, thank you very much, Larry. And that was great. And of course, I encourage people to go to YouTube and check out our first interview that dealt with a lot of the 70s. Bravewords.com also posted a link to it.
Hmm.
It's been a pleasure, Larry. Thank you very much.
Pleasure for me, and you did great.
Thank you. Let me just